Hello and welcome to Sketchplanations, the podcast. We talk about various phenomena and observations in the world, inspired by the collection of sketches at sketchplanation.com to help fuel your own interesting chats with colleagues, family and friends. And at this time of year, we're happier than ever to give you the fodder you need to diffuse tension around the Christmas dinner table. I'm engineer and broadcaster Rob Bell, and with me is designer and creator of Sketchplanations Jono Hay, and entrepreneur and past winner of The Apprentice, Tom Pellereau. Hello, chaps.
Hello.
Now, this time we're talking about continuous partial attention, a blight on modern society that interrupts and distracts. As ever, for the full explanation, let's head straight over to Jono. Jono, do you want to talk us through your sketch and tell us a bit more about continuous partial attention, please?
Do you know what, actually? The person who came up with the term continuous partial attention was somebody called Linda Stone. She was quite explicit several times in some of the things she talked about was that it wasn't good or bad. It was just what it was.
Interesting. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
So I called it a blight there. That's just through my own eyes, but good. I think we will probably come back to this.
You find a lot of things blight.
Yeah, I do. I do. Sorry.
We're being really honest. A lot of the modern world is blighted, in your opinion.
Luddite, Rob.
I think we'll probably come back to that, John. That's a good point. Notch that up.
Anyway, yeah. So what is continuous partial attention? So it's a term coined by Linda Stone, and she was an exec at Apple and Microsoft and a professor at NYU. What is quite a long time ago now. And continuous partial attention is this idea which she started seeing around that time of people being sort of connected, always on, trying to do a bunch of things at the same time. A bit like, actually, I think at the time, multitasking was quite a popular sort of term. People were realizing that you could, in fact, multitask now, and like, how much could you multitask? And then she was sort of seeing multitasking to the next level where people were trying to do all sorts of things. So she had students in her classes who had, and those were the days that she was doing it, which was like, she says they had pages and SMSs coming in, and I think the BlackBerry came in soon after, and people were doing email and they had multiple windows open, plus they're in a lecture and they're trying to do all these things, and it's just not very satisfied. So she coined this term continuous partial attention, which I think probably just hit the nail on the head at the time. And obviously I discovered it much later. In fact, I didn't realize for a long time that she coined this term, just so you know, in the mid-90s.
Wow.
So it's an interesting one that it really resonated with me. And I think a lot of other people from 2020 onwards, which is over 25 years or so later. So it's still relevant now, and then presumably is the next level, but I guess we'll talk about that.
Would you want to talk us about how you've represented it in the sketch as well? Because I find that quite amusing, and it does give an example of what this continuous partial attention could be for an individual.
Yeah. And, when you're reaching for inspiration, sometimes some of it's like autobiographical. You can't help that. And so I went for like a family scene. And this is one of the few ones where I'd say it's almost a cartoon, which I wouldn't, I normally just do sketches and frameworks and all sorts of stuff. But there's basically, there's somebody at the stove and they're kind of on their phone and they're asking their spouse or partner, somebody who sat at the island, a question, and they're on their phone and it's pinging and they're sort of not really hearing the question. Meanwhile, somebody else in the house is like trying to talk to them, saying they're about to leave to go for a yoga class, and the kids on the floor who spilt paint and spreading it all over the place, and the soup is boiling over on the stove. So none of these things are happening very well, basically. So that's the idea with the scene. And there's a happy family on the wall.
And I think as soon as you give something like this a name, you can kind of recognize it in yourself, in others. That was my experience when I saw your sketch, and it's my experience when I was looking back at this again in prep for the podcast.
I've experienced it so many times where you're sort of half doing a bunch of stuff at the same time, and as a result, I don't know, you hear somebody talk to you, but you kind of missed some of the questions. So you sort of like blunder your way through a response, but then you don't really finish what you're doing. And then you're like, oh, excuse me, sorry, what did you say? I wasn't really paying attention anyway. Yeah, I don't know. It just totally related to it, sadly. And lots of things at work as well. And, if you think of video calls and stuff like that, we can get to, but I don't know about you guys, but unfortunately, I feel the term, as soon as I read it, like I hit the nail on the head. I was like, damn it, that's what's going on.
What I'm really interested to learn in your little explanation there, Jono, is that this was a term coined in the 90s, because I automatically relate this to the invention of the smartphone, right? Which is just this sort of thing always in your pocket. And we need to be really careful here that we don't just replicate our discussion from a previous episode on phubbing, phone snubbing, right? And the constant distraction of smartphones. So if I feel we're going that way with it, I'm going to call it out, and we need to move on, because if people want to hear about phubbing, there's a whole episode on that. This is different.
This can just be a cost for you as well, not just for other people, right? Like, say, phubbing is annoying if you're sat there and somebody else is paying attention to their phone. And that can happen here. Like if you're on a video call and you notice that people are doing other stuff while you're trying to talk to them, that's kind of annoying. But also you can be in this kind of, and I think this is where she was picking up, you're kind of in this continuously slightly stressed state that things might be coming in, or I have to check this, I have to check that. And, I certainly at work in my last two companies, we used Slack, which is, sort of instant messaging.
Yeah.
And very quickly, you have it on your phone as well, because that's really convenient sometimes to call people or just send a quick message while you're around at work or at lunch. But then you also have that at home, and then people are working in different time zones, and messages might be coming anytime. And you realize that you're at home in the kitchen, and then you're thinking that your phone's just got a message. Maybe I could just quickly respond to that, but you're trying to do something else. So yeah, I think there's a cost to you personally, phubbing was very much like a you and others.
Yeah. Gotcha. Tommy, where do you sit on this?
I have always been a massive multitasker type person. And I think historically, when the kind of tech or the things around you couldn't quite keep up, that worked pretty well. But it's been absolutely supersized by the amount of information that can now come in on phones and laptops and iPads and all these things that are around you. I think fundamentally there is one big important aspect that we probably have to all be aware of. And that is that we can concentrate on about 400 words per minute. But yet when people are talking, they only tend to talk at about 150, 200.
Okay, yeah.
So actually the very aspect of a conversation is actually relatively difficult for a human to concentrate on, because they're just like, why can't you talk faster? Like you can concentrate twice the speed that I can talk to you, Rob.
So right now we're going at the speed of your thought. Your sentences rather
my
than the
ability
speed at
to
which
create.
I could process.
Yeah, we're not
exactly.
Jono, Tommy's thoughts are going much faster than he can communicate them.
Yeah, he's condensing and picking all sorts of things. Yeah,
and often actually, the slower we talk, the better we talk.
Yeah,
which is one of the that I'm sure we've done podcasts about that aspect. But that does mean that kind of when you are having a one-to-one conversation, it is quite challenging actually to keep your brain focus there. Come on, hurry up, sort of scenario. Which therefore I think often means that when we're having those conversations, we're kind of pulled to finding more information that we can be processing simultaneously. So I think maybe that's an interesting thing to be aware of. But certainly the modern day has been totally supersized, and these days it is so easy to get distracted by the shiny object that you don't make the best of the moments.
I heard Linda talk about. I mentioned multitasking briefly. So she said like typical multitasking is you doing one task that requires focus and one which is kind of automatic. So so you could stir the soup and talk to somebody, or you can like eat lunch and have a conversation. Yeah. But the difference with continuous partial attention was you're doing more than one activity that requires your cognition.
Yes.
To do it properly. And I guess what you're saying there, Tom, is actually we do have some spare cognition if you can sort of keep this going. I remember, I think it was Oliver Burkeman, and he said that he found that he could even, I think it was him.
Hello, quick interlude from Rob here. Jono has since corrected himself that it wasn't Oliver Burkeman. In fact, it was Dan Kahneman. Back to you, Jono.
even be reading a bedtime story to his kid and find himself he's got spare capacity to think about other things at the same time, because these stories are quite short and simple or whatever. And so he's sitting there reading and he can be thinking about what he's going to do tomorrow or whatever. And he's like, oh, no, I shouldn't do that. Be present.
Yeah, be present. Enjoy this beautiful time with my children. The brain's sort of drifting off into other parts.
Yeah.
I have been very, very lucky because my sister started a company called Mind Over Tech. And one of the aspects they're really focusing on is how to make the best of technologies without finding some of the negative aspects that can come with a kind of addictive side and the constant desire to be checking it, even though there probably isn't something there to be checked. And I did quite a lot of training with her, and some of those things have really helped. And one of them at the beginning, the trainer was kind of like, okay, it's all right to just sit there and think nothing, do nothing occasionally. I was like, wow, this is a mumbo jumbo rubbish, isn't it? I mean, seriously, what does he mean by this? He's like, and maybe try it. And straight after the session, I was in a bit of a hurry to go and get my kids. And so I rushed out of the thing. I got in the car, I drove away, and then I was instantly in the car and it was quiet. And you can't look at your phone when you're driving, obviously. And I went, oh, I must turn the radio on. Oh, hang on, why do I need to turn the radio on? Why do I need to fill my brain with more stuff that's probably not irrelevant, or it's just going to kind of distract me or pull me out of this moment? And I suddenly realized then, this is what he means. You can just do one thing at a time. You don't have to be blasting yourself with information constantly.
See, now, when we talked about fubbing, I was quite happy to offer myself up as somebody who doesn't fub. And I think I'm the same or similar with this. I can't do more than one thing at a time. And it frustrates a lot of people around me sometimes, because it does mean that it takes me longer to do stuff. But I'm always quite happy with the outcome of what it is I've achieved at the end of focusing entirely on that thing and then moving on to the next. So I find it frustrating when others do it. Mm-hmm. And I'm around that, but I'm getting too close to fubbing again here now.
Yeah, well, maybe you've not been in times where at work. Well, I've definitely been at times at work when there might be video calls, quite often video calls, because everybody's got a laptop open, but you can even be in the same room with laptops open, and it's so easy. I think, if particularly the bigger the meeting, it's so easy to just be like, I've got a bit of spare attention, just like you say, Tom. A message has just come in, I can just switch over to that, and then you are sort of there, but in my mind, you're also kind of not. And so for me, I'd much rather everybody closed everything else and was like, we might as well just be here, short and sweet. Let's focus on this and then get out of here.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's always the case. And I actually think people probably have quite strong views that, is it fine to do stuff on a video call, like do other things if you're not the one who has to speak at the time? And I think some people think that's totally fine and other people don't.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So maybe you've not had those occasions so much.
I tell you somewhere where I have experienced it recently is having a young kid who you need to be keeping an eye out for. So she's moving now. So if you're having a chat with someone or you're trying to do something, but also it's your turn and you're trying to make sure that she's not going to, I don't know, pull something heavy off the shelf, or, that chair that she's got hold of, is that going to come down? I do find myself doing that.
Yeah.
If it's not right, I've got time with my daughter here now and we're going to spend time playing and mucking about. If I'm trying to do other things, I find myself in continuous partial attention when I'm doing that.
You're a bit like one of those adults in the picture then, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. And thank God in the picture it's only paints and not
something
more dangerous
there or something.
Exactly.
She's got like a bottle of Windex or something.
So definitely with kids, there are so many occasions like that, which start when they're a baby and you've got to look after them and you're trying to have conversations, or you're trying to do cooking, or you're trying to, it becomes much more of because someone is so dependent on you. One of the things that I get most frustrated about with modern life is the number of online forms or whatever you might have to do. This weekend, we had early Christmas with my family and I was given an amazing drone. Right. Brilliant thing. Brilliant. I was so excited. Opened it up. Right. Okay. Got to download the app. got to log in, and I'm there with all my family for about 10 minutes, chat going, come on, Dave, let's play with this drone. And I couldn't, and of course the password didn't work and it didn't log in, and I'm doing that. And meanwhile, he's been given like a really cheap drone. He's put batteries in and he's flying around with his drone, and I'm there with my technically better one, totally unable to even get in. And then I just gave up. Right, I'll do it another time because it's getting me too much.
That is really frustrating, isn't it? Yeah, you're like, do I need an account right now? Oh, why doesn't it pre-fill my details? I can't suggest a password. It doesn't meet the requirements. It's not saved on the browser.
And I'm trying to only give it partial attention so I can be with the family, but actually it's demanding more of that. Otherwise, I'm going to mess it up.
Yeah, you probably need to walk out of the room, focus on that, and come back in. So I think it was actually what Linda was very much talking about, is about focus. And it's funny, like hearing some of her examples. She said at the time, this is the 90s, or even before that, which was early days of sort of Microsoft and Apple, computers used to be like one thing at a time. Like if you were working something, you had email was like a green screen with black text or whatever. And so that's all you did. So if you wanted to do two things, you had two screens because you could only do one thing at a time. Yeah. And of course, the whole premise of the Macintosh and Windows, the display where you can have 5 things up at once. And it's kind of messed us up as well, right? Because you can have 5 things up at once. And of course, it's mega helpful in many cases. But it also makes you start doing loads of different things, and you can be doing one thing and something can ping on another. Like, it's so easy to get distracted. Just you staring at your laptop because 5 different things can come in, right? You can have your WhatsApp open. You can have SMSs come in. You can have emails come in while you're trying to do some other thing.
You can, but you don't have to. You can turn off your notifications.
Yeah.
Says he who annoyingly doesn't get back to people anytime quickly because he's turned his notifications off. But it means I can focus and I don't get distracted as much. Hey, listen, I'm not putting myself up on a pedestal here. I am a little bit, but
I was going to say you are a little bit.
Is that why you chose this one? Is that why you chose this one?
No, because listen, Tommy, at the beginning, and I want to come on to this now.
Tommy promises he will improve his
No.
when we next see each other.
Jono said at the beginning that when Linda Stone coined this term, it wasn't a positive or a negative. It was a thing, right? So let's talk about some of the positives of continuous partial attention.
Sorry, I got a bit distracted there. What are you saying?
Anyone?
You can get a lot of things done.
Yeah, sure.
I think it depends a lot on what you do and what life circumstance you're in. I imagine medics, probably it's hugely important that they have the ability to do lots of different things at a time.
You're right. There must be some roles where actually continuous partial attention is demanded of you.
Constantly, yeah. Probably, being a childminder, being in a nursery, being a teacher, you probably have to have an amazing ability to do multiple things at a time.
Yeah. Do you know where I saw it most impressively was when I was on board HMS Vengeance, one of the UK's Trident submarines, and they were doing drills of when stuff goes wrong on the boat, and then there are about 6 heads of different teams came into this one room, really, really small room. You're on a submarine. And the guy in charge, the XO, he was there just getting information from everybody, making decisions, asking this. And there's stuff going on all around. It would have been so easy to get distracted. He was focused, but maybe he was just focused on one role, which was one task, resolving this problem. But it required lots of different things happening at one time. And it was really busy to be in there and to experience it and to watch this all happen. But it felt incredibly well controlled. You know, these guys are brilliantly trained, but it didn't feel like multitasking. It did feel like he was being put under the pressure to be in continuous partial attention, but was also really effective with it as well.
Yeah, sometimes I just wonder, like, if you're the person doing the cameras at a sporting event and you're paying attention to all these cameras at once and you're like, okay, right, switch to that, switch to this, play the replay, whatever, like that stuff is really impressive. I often think incredible focus. To me, that would be continuous partial attention. I would really struggle to be able to do that. Perhaps you can practice at it.
Yeah, some people are amazing. When I do QVC, the presenters will have someone upstairs telling them about how things are going, and they will continue to be talking, and maybe the studio upstairs are also giving them the next question to ask me. And there was a time where I would have a headphone. They'd be like, would you like a headphone as well so you can listen? I did it a couple of times. Like, no, sorry. I can't possibly, because if you start talking to me, I will just stop talking. And that doesn't work quite so well on air. So no, yeah, it's fine.
I think that really gets to this idea that there's too many things requiring cognition.
Yes.
Like you have to process this and process that.
Yeah.
And in order to process this, the other one just stops. Yeah, like I just stop speaking. I see it. I mean, now I have it the other way around as a parent, but it used to be as a kid, I'd be like playing a video game and somebody asks you what you want for dinner or something, or what you're having. Yeah. And you're like, yeah, dinner, thanks. And you're like, no, I asked you what you wanted. And you know, like I can't process it. You're like, I just stop this. What was the question? And answer it, and then go on. But I've definitely been that one where I'm just carrying on, and I can't process what you're saying at all. When you probably die in the computer game as well.
See, we're coming back around to the negatives of it again, right?
Yeah.
Because so I'm seeing that there's a difference between what we're talking about there, like live broadcasting, right, and having one task that involves lots of continuous partial attention across different bits of communication and things that are happening, and the scenario, let's say in the office or in the scenario in the sketch, Jono, where it feels like it's this desire not to miss out on anything that means that you are dividing your attention between all these various different things, that desire not to miss out.
Yeah, I thought about FOMO as well with this. I have done the same where, you know, remove your notifications and get rid of the little red bubbles on the apps and stuff. But then I also have this thing that because I don't have a notification, something might have come in, and it's sort of in my mind that maybe something's come in. It's been a while since I've had a look, so maybe I'll just have a quick look. Whereas actually, if I had a notification, I'd know that nothing had come in. And so I do find occasionally I'm doing that. I'm like, I've turned all my notifications off, so now I've got to go check, and that's probably worse.
There's FOMO, and there's also just the need sometimes in life or in work or many different things where you just have to try and get as much done as you possibly can. So I do a lot of work with Asia. They're currently 8 hours ahead. So from 6 a.m. when I'm up, they are asking me questions. And I know that if I don't get answers back to them within 2 or 3 hours, like I've missed another day, because they'll stop soon. And it's at exactly the same time as I'm getting up, having a shower, sorting out the kids, making them breakfast, trying to get out. But if I didn't have that ability to partially attend to that, as well as answering the message to someone at the same time as pouring the milk for Poppy or Jack, you know, as well as sort of making the tea, my business life would be much, much less productive, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And the kids wouldn't get to eat anything. The thing that always amazes me is how good virtually every mum in the world is at just unbelievable amounts of multitasking. In the morning, they're kind of making sure that the kids have got the right shoes because it's squash today, Poppy, and Jack, have you got your gum shield because you've got hockey tonight? And, you know, all that sort of stuff. And did you see that note from your teacher that you've got to have a £1 coin because it's blah, 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 blah day? And you're just like, wow, I'm concentrating on some things. But Sarah constantly amazes me in her ability to organise the family.
Yeah, I'd be pouring orange juice on the cornflakes or something by mistake.
Booking the kids onto a flight to China.
Yeah, I just booked the tickets. Oh, right, Jack. Oh, you have to go, Jack. Sorry. Non-refundable. That would be classic. Like Tom said, as a leader in an organization, I think you've got some different roles. One of them is you've got to be strategic, and sometimes you've got to really focus on what you're doing. Other times you've got to be all about unblocking your team, or like Tom said, about like making sure that if somebody's got questions, they get an answer. And so you can have questions as a leader coming in from all different sides, and quicker you can deal with each one of these things, all of these people can carry on with their jobs and they're not waiting. You're not the bottleneck. And so I think as a leader, you have a lot there that actually is maybe quite a good thing at times, but not if you also have to do focus work at the same time, or not pour orange juice on cornflakes.
Yeah. What's the best way to be conscious of it when it is oneself that might be guilty of continuous partial attention? How can you avoid it?
Some of the things you try and do is you turn what is an activity that requires cognition into one that's kind of automatic. And I think people Might get there with walking these days. I know obviously we can all walk, but like walking down a pavement, you might get to the point where, look, if it's a long straight pavement and there aren't any cars around and I'm not crossing roads, actually I don't have to pay much attention to my walking anymore. Yeah. Which is, I think, where you get to like this other sketch called A Phone Zombie. But I have to say that I had a commute and I had a 20-minute walk, and one bit was a really long, quiet residential street, and I had a masterclass membership that year. Yeah, which is videos.
Yeah, and on your phone.
Yeah, I would watch it while I was on the train, and then I was walking down this long straight road, and I'm like, I think I could still watch it here.
Watch a walk.
It's very quiet. I'm just walking straight. And then, of course, you come up to a road and you have to put it down and actually go, oh, I nearly walked across there. That was really stupid. But I think it's like taking those activities which did require cognition and you're like, bring it down to, can I make it automatic enough that I could do something else?
Yes.
Did you ever see the video of the lady falling in the fountain?
No. Was she phone zombie?
It's just like a security camera footage from a mall.
That's great.
Walking around the mall and she falls straight in the fountain.
That's great.
She's texting on her phone.
That's
gets out
good.
And walks off soaking wet. Yeah. That's the danger. But anyway, maybe we can make more stuff not require our full attention. But on the other hand, maybe it's a slippery slope in which you just enjoy the walk. Yeah. Probably should just do that.
Yeah. Well, bring on single tasking.
Yeah.
I'm a massive champion for single tasking.
Absolutely.
You ask my wife. Drives her mad. But I get it done, and it's done to as good a quality job that I could muster.
There's definitely times and places where multitasking is really useful, beneficial, and there's times and places where it's really, really not. And single tasking would help us all a lot in many circumstances.
In the sketch, there's somebody trying to talk to the other people in the room saying they're leaving, and they're off to yoga. And it's not an accident that they're yoga, and I think Linda mentioned it as well.
Yeah.
Which is that because you have this sort of like constant low level stress, I think like chronic alertness of technology, that things could reach you from anywhere, or I should be checking this or whatever. She says there's actually a push towards the opposite side, which is the whole like, detoxing and wellness and meditation and disconnects and going on a retreat and leaving everything and yoga and things like that, because it's completely the opposite, where you're mega in single tasking, as you say.
And hyper focused on it as well.
Yeah. And actually, in a way, I think it's probably not coincidental that's, I think, risen in the same time. And
yeah, you're right.
There's another sketch, and she mentioned the same thing in one of the things I was listening to, which is the sketches in the book, actually, which is that things tend to evolve with a thesis, and then the antithesis, and then a synthesis, and which is like, the thesis is, we can be connected anytime and I can do all this stuff. And then the antithesis is like, I hate that. I can't stand it, whatever. And then the synthesis is all these solutions that have gradually come in over the years for us to help control these problems that we get from all the benefits we also get from our technology. Yeah. But I think, it's interesting that I think you get massively on, but people also want to now get massively off.
Yes.
And go to the yoga class and forget everything.
That is such a simile, metaphor of life generally, I think. But that's probably always been the case, right? Because we're talking about technology now, but go back 100 years, it would still be the same thing. This technology comes and it brings us all these advantages, and then like, oh God, it's gone too far. We need to get away from it. I'm sure that's always been the case.
Yeah. One of the most productive periods of my life was when I was in The Apprentice. And and in The Apprentice, you were not allowed your phone, your wallet, your keys. You couldn't go home. There was no access to email, no access to internet, actually, at all. And you only had one task to do for those days of the task. And it was actually amazing how much I could achieve, or as a group we achieved. Helen and I created a whole brand for a fast food restaurant chain, My Pie. It's probably one of my best ever pieces of work, actually. And we did that in a day, 2 days. Helen nailed it on the food. I was very lucky with the brand idea, and it came together really nicely. But we only were allowed to do one thing for the whole time in there. And it was hugely, hugely productive.
This is going way back at university, where there was a period where we did a project for a whole semester.
Yeah.
And so, you've had actually like decades almost, because all of your schooling has been class of this, geography, then we move to PE, then we do science, then we do this, and you're switching all the time. And then this was like the third or fourth year of university. And then they were like, okay, you're just going to do this project. And you got nothing else, lectures, no classes, whatever. Just turn up at the end of the thing and show us your project. And I remember like, wow, this is amazing. You mean this is all we have to do today? And then there was somebody who was a year above us who'd done it the previous year. And he said to me at the beginning, I remember, he's like, make sure you make progress on it, but you probably got to do like a few hours good work on it a day. And that's fine. And you'll get there. And I was like, oh, only a few hours. Because, we've been doing like 8 hours of stuff.
Lectures and tutorials.
Exactly, and homeworks and whatever. And he's like, oh, you only have to do a couple of hours of good work on it a day. And I think he was right. I think you only have to do a few hours of work on it a day. And if you take that and you go, actually, I'm not just going to do 2 hours. I'm going to do the entire day, start to finish, on this one thing. Yeah. Incredible the amount of progress you make. Yeah. We used to do it at work, something I used to lead. At both the last companies I've done, something called a ship it day, which is like literally 24 hours start to finish, and you've got to deliver something at the end. And people said at the end of it, so the premise is you leave everything in your day job behind, which is often quite hard for people to do. It's interesting how hard it is for people to do, even for 24 hours. And you team up with somebody, you just do this for 24 hours. And people were like, wow, this is amazing. It's amazing how much we got done. And it's just amazing how joyful this focus was on one thing. And why don't we do this all the time? Was a lot of the thoughts, because it's just incredible what you can get done if you are just focused on something. So I can absolutely imagine in The Apprentice, when you've also got that, the pressure, and you want to do a good job, you get tons done. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe if we just focus a bit more.
Well, I'm really conscious that at the beginning we've said it a couple of times in the pod, it's neither positive nor negative. It's just a thing. But it sounds like we've come down on it pretty hard. It sounds like we've dismissed this as a negative trait of human behaviour. Where are the positives?
We've been through a few.
Getting lots
done. And sometimes you just have to. It's not
a really poor quality, but you've got it done.
And sometimes in life, you just have to get stuff done, right? You don't get to choose the timing of things. You've just got to get through it.
Yeah.
Wise words.
Yeah. Okay.
A nice quote I came across the other day from David Bader, and it just says, "Be here now, be someplace else later." Is that so complicated? And I think technology messes with that loads, doesn't it? Because you can kind of be here, and you can be answering stuff in China, and you can be doing something in the office.
Fear of missing out.
I could be on this podcast doing some emails or checking something out or reading the news, but we should be doing them. Be here now.
Is there anything else pressing that anyone was to bring up before we call it a day on continuous partial attention?
I think like quite a lot of the subjects that come forward, I'm fascinated to know how AI is going to affect this in the next 20 years.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that it's going to really help.
You know what? One of the things that came to mind is, this is way back, I can't remember if this was like episode 2 or something, was yak shaving.
Yep.
And yak shaving was like you're trying to do something, and then you end up doing something else, and you end up doing something else, you end up doing something else. And that's when you're doing that, very often you end up with like 5 or 6 slightly uncompleted tasks. Yeah. And you're like, and you're doing this thing, and you can't finish it right now. And then somebody asks you a question, and you get back to that, but you were really trying to do that. And there you're doing lots of different things. And AI is interesting because, in a way, what is quite nice about AI is, like, if you do research normally in the web, is you end up with like loads of tabs open, and AI is quite different because you just have this conversation with like this one point of contact, and it streamlines a lot of your focus into just that conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know how it will play out, but it is quite interesting. I feel it's quite nice. So there's that film Her, where everybody's got the AI in their ear, and everybody's just walking around talking to the AI. And it's like, that's your one thing. You don't have to open up a computer and do 10 different things and research all this stuff. You just have this one channel, and they've got all the answers. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
Maybe that's the synthesis after our thesis and antithesis.
Yes.
Or maybe not. We'll see.
Or maybe it's what's the first one?
Thesis, a new thesis.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have the antithesis of it. Yeah.
That's nice. Who said that? It's a lovely quote, all that.
Which one? The thesis, antithesis, right?
Yeah.
It's sometimes known, but erroneously, as Hegel's dialectic. But I think it's a sort of general framework of like the progress of ideas and thought. It's quite interesting. Actually, the example I used in that sketch was lots of notifications and then somebody chucking away their phone, and then the solution being like airplane mode and do not disturb and stuff like that, which has come about to solve all the problems of it. Yeah,
it's lovely. It's lovely. Well, there you go. Any conclusions? If you feel yourself in a state of continuous partial attention and you're feeling a bit stressed by it, maybe take on some of our suggestions. Shut off your notifications. Take a break. Focus on one task at a time till it's finished.
All of these things. I think I'd go do the wellness retreat. But
and go do a wellness retreat.
But definitely in the picture is not the happy scenario. They would have put their phones down when they walked in the door. Somebody's really focused on making a delicious dinner and they're all sat around the table eating, and one of them's playing with the baby. That should be my antithesis picture next to it.
Yeah. Love it. Well, listen, I've found that useful, guys. And again, I think what's most useful for me is now I'm aware of this as a thing, and continuous partial attention is it's part of my vernacular. It's kind of part of my toolbox of traits of us humans, and I can recognize it in myself. I can recognize it in others, and hopefully I can just say it's a thing people do.
You're just going to recognize it in others. You don't do it, do you? From up on your pedestal.
It's a problem that other people have. Yes.
No, it pisses me off when other people do it.
Next week, another problem other people have.
Yeah. If you've enjoyed this episode, please tell your family and friends about it and have a listen to some of the other topics that we've covered. In fact, similar topics to this episode, I might suggest fubbing, 5 ways to well-being, everyone's a geek about something. Anything else springs to mind, guys?
How to instantly feel better.
There's another great one. And because of the time of year, I'd also highly recommend giving our episode on picking the perfect present a listen as well. I'll link to that in the show notes below. And I would highly recommend, if you haven't got the perfect present yet, getting on to... Jono, where's the best place to buy your book?
You can go to the Sketchplanations website, and it's got a bunch of links. So you can buy it. Waterstones, your local bookshop. If you're listening in different parts of the world, it will link you to your local Amazon.
That's handy. That's clever.
Yeah, all sorts.
Big Ideas, Little Pictures by Jono Hay, Sketchplanations. How many sketches you got in there, Jono?
That's a good question, like 130 something.
I asked you that when it was coming out a while back, and you still haven't counted them.
Well, I did know it very well. If you'll excuse me for 1 second doing some partial attention, I can look up and tell you it's a lot.
Tommy, what do you love about Jono's book?
It is such a beautiful book. It is a really fantastic gift. To give to such an incredible range of people. To your father-in-law, for example, is a perfect one.
Have you given it to your father-in-law, Tommy?
I think so, yeah. Jono is so incredibly talented with his sketches and how it looks, but also very insightful and interesting things to learn about, to know about. And I talked about it to the kids regularly as well.
There you go. What more reasons could you have to buy this wonderful book for your loved ones this Christmas, apart from knowing how many sketches are in it, Jono?
137.
There's 137 sketches in this, and some of them are exclusive to the book as well. I think we've only done one podcast on a book exclusive sketch previously.
That's true. The Awkwardness Vortex.
The Awkwardness Vortex.
This is a fun one.
There you go, guys. That's our tip for picking the perfect present this Christmas. Right. Well, guys, for the obvious closeout for this episode, it would be me kind of slowly fading my sentence away as if my attention had been drawn elsewhere.
So are we still on?
That's probably a bit cliched, so I'm not going to do that. I'll simply say thanks for listening. Go well, stay well. Goodbye.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye-bye.
All music on this podcast series is provided by the very talented Frank Cinelli, and you can find many more tracks at frankcinelli.com.